Hello AP World History students, Mr. Lassiter here, and in this video we're going to be looking at the rise and spread of Christianity. Let's go ahead and get started by looking at this map of the Roman Empire around the turn of the Common Era. And it's important to understand some context for the world in which Christianity arrives. First, what we need to understand is that the region of modern-day Israel, or what it was known as Judea to the Romans, and the city of Jerusalem had been under Roman rule for about 40 years by the time Jesus of Nazareth was born. In this region of the world, we had seen for about 500 years the religion of Judaism begin to consolidate in this around Jerusalem. We see the codification of Hebrew scriptures from about the year 530 to about the year 79 CE. In 37 BCE, the Romans had captured Jerusalem. Now, this was not necessarily something that, of course, the people in the region welcomed, although the Romans were very much curious about their religion and their writings and treated them with some deference. But overall, the Jewish people of the region were not happy with Roman rule. In fact, in the first 2 centuries CE, there are 3 major Jewish rebellions that were met with quite a big force, a show of force from the Romans. We see many people slaughtered in those rebellions. So, keeping this in mind, rebellion is a concern of the Romans, of course, in the first couple centuries of capturing this area. But it is within this Jewish community that a man named Jesus is born. Jesus traditionally is said to have been born in Bethlehem, but traditionally grew up in Nazareth. And he was presumably a day laborer before he becomes a teacher and rabbi. He is actually given the title later on, as he begins to gain followers, of Messiah. Now, the term Messiah means the anointed one. And Jesus was not the first person to be given this title. He was seen by some as a person bringing a message of liberation. He was hoped by some to be a person who might lead a rebellion that would throw off the Romans or the yoke of Roman rule. And so some saw this as a title given to someone who would actually lead a physical rebellion and reclaim the region under a kingdom in Jerusalem. This was something that Jesus and his early followers later kind of denied, that it was not a physical kingdom that he was trying to create. But you can see how the Romans, who are going to be concerned with rebellion in this time period, they might have seen the beginnings or the teachings of Jesus and the early followers as something to be concerned about. And they may have seen the execution of Jesus as justified. After all, the crime that Jesus of Nazareth was charged with was aspiring to kingship, which is something that was only reserved for the Roman emperor. Now, Jesus himself and his disciples, their stories are contained in the New Testament of the Christian Bible. But overall, the teachings of Jesus focused on a moral code. Code of love, charity, and humility. And this moral code is seen especially in the Sermon on the Mount, one of the most famous writings about the teachings of Jesus, and contained in the Beatitudes, one of which is to get an idea of the idea of humility here. Blessed are the meek, for they will inherit the earth, right? This message for the poor and downtrodden. And so it's easy to see that this message will resonate with his early followers. It'll resonate with the urban poor, with slaves, with women, people who are hungry for answers. And coincidentally, the Roman world, an urban world that did have many poor, they were ready and ripe for this message. So the early Christianity does not spread right away. It's actually a very slow spreading religion, unlike what we will see in the post-classical era with Islam. by the 4th century, or the 300s CE, only about 5% of Romans would claim to be Christian. But the earliest followers, as I said, were these kind of lower classes in urban areas. However, the spread of Christianity was aided in a great deal by by several missionaries, chief among them Peter and Paul. Peter was a follower of Jesus who is considered by the modern-day Roman Catholic Church to be the first pope, and Paul of Tarsus is probably the most significant of these missionaries. He spread the gospel of Jesus, or the teachings of Jesus, to people around the Eastern Mediterranean, and kept it in common terms that people could understand, or kept the message in common terms. He established churches around the Eastern Mediterranean, which helped this religion grow. And the role of missionaries is going to be important throughout Christianity, even into the modern era. But within the Roman Empire, Christianity gets a boost from a couple of major historical events. The first among them is the conversion of the Emperor Constantine to Christianity. He issues the Edict of Milan in the year 313, which declares that Christianity is allowed in the Roman Empire. Now, that's not to say the Roman Empire was a strict or intolerant region, but they were intolerant of Christians because Christians refused to recognize the position of the emperor or any of the Roman gods. Otherwise, if they had, they probably would have been accepted just as anyone else. But instead, because of rejecting the authority of Rome, we often see that they are persecuted, used in the arenas as fodder for the lions, as you see the gruesome picture in the top right here. But nevertheless, the conversion of Constantine changes all this, and Christianity becomes allowed in the Roman Empire. By the year 325, Constantine has called a council at the city of Nicaea to bring together Christian leaders from around the empire to establish and codify the official beliefs, or establishing the orthodoxy of Christianity. This is still seen today in the Nicene Creed. But what this does in establishing orthodoxy is it says what Christians do believe and what the state supports Christians to believe, and then it also says what Christians do not believe. So anyone who's outside of that orthodoxy could be accused of heresy. Of course, that becomes much more important when Theodosius declares that Christianity is the only religion allowed in Rome in the later 4th century. So how might this look? Well, Christianity inadvertently spreads further, perhaps, because of running out heretics. For example, in the year 431, Nestorius, who was accused of teachings that did not align up with the Catholic Church, or the early Christian Church, because of some teachings about Jesus and Mary, he is run out of Rome. And basically, Nestorius and his followers formed communities in Persia. And from there, Nestorian Christianity, which would have been considered heretical to Orthodox Christianity, would spread along the Silk Road, even as far away as China. We even have an example of this. In 781, a stele was erected in China's capital of Chang'an that shows that Nestorian Christianity had made it to China, and that the Tang emperor had actually recognized Christianity as a religion within his empire. Now, Christianity is not going to be anywhere near as successful in China as Buddhism, but nevertheless, we do see some blending of Christianity with beliefs along the Silk Road all the way to China. Of course, Christianity continued to spread as well through maritime routes. We see Egypt and Aksum have a Christian church form in that region of the world. The Coptic church forms there. Christianity makes its way to the British Isles, across the English Channel. And in all areas where Christianity spreads, it will absorb aspects of the local culture. So this is the kind of basics in looking at where Christianity came from and its context in arising and how it spreads throughout the Mediterranean. Keep in mind, it is a very slow spreading religion. Islam had reached Europe before Christianity reaches the Scandinavian countries. So you can see that early on in our post-classical era, there will be kind of this rivalry between the two. But that's pretty much it for today. Think about how the rise of Christianity and the spread of Christianity compares to some of the other religions we've looked at, such as Hinduism and Buddhism. That will certainly be important to compare for your AP exam. That's it. Have a good one.